Buenas tardes, estamos aquí. Marta Konovalov, ella nos viene a contar de su proceso de diseño, de su técnica que nos viene a compartir, o sus técnicas que nos viene a compartir, y realizar un taller junto con nuestros alumnos como parte de las actividades de los Estonian Design Days en México en este 2023, aquí en UAM Azcapotzalco, en nuestra división de CIAD. Entonces quisiera darle la bienvenida a Marta. Vamos a cambiar a inglés. Hello, Marta. Thank you for being over here with us, and welcome to Mexico. Tere tulemast Mexicose. And we wanted to ask you about your work. If you can briefly introduce us about your work. What do you do? What are you coming to share over here in Mexico about your work?
So, hello, my name is Marta. As I mentioned before to the students, as a practitioner, I'm standing in many different positions. I'm a craftsperson, I'm a maker, I'm a designer, and I'm also an educator and a teacher. But the aim of my work is to change the systems, how we consume fashion, how we interact with our clothing, what are the relationships, and how we can prolong their use phase by using repair.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I saw in this talk that you were giving to us some differences and some similarities between Mexico and Estonia. I think we're very similar in some ideas, and it's very different our history. You come from the Soviet times, where it was also a difficult situation in Estonia, where you needed to repair things by need. There wasn't bigger stores or these capitalist ideas that were introducing the fast fashion as we have normalized nowadays. And you recover some of those techniques from Estonia or from those Soviet times. So could you tell us a little bit about that? It was very interesting for me to hear about it.
Basically, in the maybe 100 years or more ago in Estonia, we used to use all the material, everything that we could have. We would mend our clothing repeatedly out of need to do so, because we couldn't afford to throw something out. And I believe that still here in Mexico or in Mexico, and also in Estonia or globally, we are still in the same position that we cannot afford to throw things out because of the lack of the resources that we have as a global community. So I think we need to relearn these skills, and that's why I'm using really simple turning techniques or also patching our clothing. That is, I believe so, that it's something that everybody can do at their home if they want and if they take the time. So like relearning not only the techniques but also the philosophy that we can repair our clothing.
Okay. One similarity that I would like to underline is this idea of the second-hand clothes, like second use and buying second-hand. I know that it's popular in Estonia as it is in Finland, these stores that select and they try to make it look nice, these second-hand stores. I was actually buying some clothes from there. And in Mexico, some of the students were mentioning this idea of la paca, that is this kind of marketplaces where you go and select your clothes. We actually have our small paca around here in our workshop. And I would say that that's some similarity, maybe among the youth, that they want to create also their own style, and they want to show, just a different style, about it. How do you work with that? What are your thoughts about the second hand? You were telling us some things before. Maybe you can repeat some of those things. And what are your thoughts about this second hand fashion also?
From my background and also visiting these recycling centers and seeing also how many things won't be sold in second-hand stores because there's a small damage, maybe a stain, maybe a hole. I believe that these mending techniques could also help us to be more creative with our clothing and developing a personal style, because nobody has a thing that you have if you have added this layer of care to it by maybe sometimes just I don't know, covering up a stain or repairing a small hole, but with it's really nice to hear that the young people here and also in Estonia, that they would rather buy their clothing from a second-hand store than going to the fast fashion market. But it's also, when you buy something, whatever it's from, you should keep it and or also think about if you discard it, where does it go? Will somebody buy it if you discard it? Because not all the items in the second-hand shops sadly get sold. Sometimes even if they're given away for free, there are a lot of stuff, a lot of clothing that nobody wants. So also I would recommend to think about that side. So it's for me it's really important to keep these clothing items in somebody's wardrobe for as long as possible. It doesn't have to be one person, but it can circulate around before it gets recycled into new material.
Okay, thank you. We had a question similar to that, from one of our teachers. He was asking if it's just a trend, this thing of repairing stuff, and if it's a trend that can last, because he doesn't think that maybe he can have the time to repair his clothes or things like that. And I got reminded about the sustainability in design. In the beginning of the century, a lot of people were saying that sustainability is just a trend, and it's not gonna last, it's gonna pass. And nowadays we have sustainability as the backbone of design. It's really important, and we have to think about these things. Where is it gonna go, or what is it gonna happen afterwards? And mostly, I would like to underline something that you said in your presentation and was in one of the slides. It's about showing our spirit over there, like our spiritual path. If you repair, you are becoming some person that is part of the change, part of something positive in our world. If you are just buying the fast fashion, maybe you're part of the problem, still. So if you can remind us about this phrase of how is it part of this showing that spirituality or showing yourself as somebody that cares, and your thoughts about the timelessness of repairing and mending.
Okay, I was saying before that mending shouldn't be a sign of poverty as it used to be. I think in both maybe our societies, but it should be seen as a sign of spiritual richness, that you actually make the decision to repair instead of contributing to this environmental crisis that we have for the moment. So it's your choice, and it can be a form of activism. So once you start wearing something that has been repaired, you actually show it to the world. And even stitching back a button can be a strong statement and stand against fast fashion systems. But about this trend part, I believe that this also like sustainability, some of the key concepts of sustainability have been there 2,000 years ago. We're just rediscovering them now. And I believe it's same with mending. We have the knowledge already. We have had it and also not wasting materials. We have had the knowledge for so long, and now throughout the last century, somehow we keep forgetting them. So I think it's not a trend, it's rediscovering old wisdom.
Okay, I agree. We have 50 years of fast fashion, and we have 2,000 years of mending and trying to solve our needs in a simpler way. I don't know if you have some questions also that you wanted to.
My question was, no, that's me. What does mending stands for? What does it mean? Where does it come from?
Mending.
Mending, the term, who come with the idea, or how do you differentiate it from just repairing something?
It's different because English is not my native language. It's also different in Estonia, this mending and repair terms. For me, they kind of still mean the same time, but with my work, I see mostly mending and repair not as making alterations. So if the trousers are too short, or not making these changes, but actually adding a layer to something that has been worn out or being broken, or it has a hole. So for me personally, mending and repair mean the same thing. But there can also be repairing function. For example, one of the students now decided not to repair something because it wasn't broken, but he was still saying that I'm not wearing it, so I'm redesigning it. So it's also, for me, it's mending the function. You can make this fabric or the shirt function as something you wear once again. So it's also mending the system and mending this thing. So then can be many different ways to see what is mending and what is repair. But my focus is fixing something that is actually broken, like the fashion system as well.
Do you think it has something to do with affection also, that you are taking care of your clothes, no, and you're more affectionate to it, no, and like this kitsuge, no, the technique that you repair with golden, the ceramics, so it's making it more beautiful because it has been repaired, no. It's also like a soul path, no. If you repair yourself after being broken, then you become a new, no, you become some new person that might be better than the old one. Is it something like that?
Definitely, it is. I've been also working with kintsugi, and this Japanese wabi-sabi philosophy is something that inspires me very much. So that things are not in a like constant state as they are, but they're constantly evolving towards something, and also all towards nothingness. And also that throughout this act of mending, you actually give more value to this item because it becomes more like affectionate to you, or like you actually grow a relationship, not only be the owner or the user of this item that is in your wardrobe.
Okay, thanks a lot, Marta. Thanks a lot, guys, also for sharing it with us, and we'll hope to see you also in the other workshops.
Thank you very much.